Welcome, everyone. Nice to see that so many are participating with us today. My name is Michaela. I'm a marketing coordinator here at Cloud9. And with me, I have my colleague, Micke.
Hello, everyone. It's Mikael here from Cloud9. I work as a senior key account manager. Nice to see you all. Nice to see that we have a lot of people dropping in, both from Finland and Sweden.
Yes. And this is our second webinar in our Cloud9&Friends series. And today we have Nudie Jensen from Centra and Thomas Peham from Storyblock with us. And it's going to be so exciting to have to let them on stage very soon. But just a little reminder for those of you who maybe weren't here last Wednesday, we have a recording, so you can go in and watch Camilla's, our first webinar, about how to building a better user experience with a headless approach. So you can find that in our website and check it out now if you're intrigued.
Great. Yeah, this is the second seminar in our webinar series we call Cloud9&Friends. And we have 4 of them, and we do have a general theme going through all these episodes, and that is headless e-commerce. It's a way to build a modern e-commerce site that is stable, scalable, flexible, and so all these seminars we share our insights and experience on how to build a modern headless e-commerce solution.
Yeah.
So, what else?
Yeah, and when Martin starts, he will begin this this webinar, and then after Thomas will come after. But feel free to ask questions in the chat afterwards, and then we will bring them up and ask them to Martin and Thomas.
Yeah.
And also stay tuned to our little surprise giveaway after.
Don't leave the screen.
No. I think we could get started.
Yeah, so with no further ado, I would like to invite Martin Jensen onto the stage. Martin is the CEO of Centra, and Centra is a very exciting Swedish company that had developed a e-commerce platform. It's built ground up for headless e-commerce scenarios. They are trusted by some of the big brands like Stronger, Nudie Jeans, etc. They also recently released a new version 3 of their platform. So it's a very interesting platform. So Martin, I would like to invite you on stage.
Yes.
Hello.
All right. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Martin.
Fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me.
Welcome. The floor is yours.
Excellent. Excellent. So let me then share my screen, and I was invited. I think you gave me sort of a list of what to speak about, and I'll try to stick to that. And I'm just figuring out how to screen share here in the meantime. And I think it's working, right?
Yes.
Perfect.
We see your screen.
Excellent. Yeah, super. So, and by the way, I cannot see you when I'm screen sharing. So if you want to interrupt, if you have any questions or comments or wherever, just interrupt, because I cannot see you when I'm screen sharing. So the topic I was given is like how are the next generation brands are built. It's a super exciting topic, and it's very close to heart for us at Centra. I think I'll give you a short introduction to what Centra is. So Centra, as Mikael is mentioning, Centra is an e-commerce platform for brands, and it's a headless e-commerce platform. And what we've done at Centra is we have essentially decided that we build e-commerce software, but only for brands. So we have a very specific type of customer in mind when we design our software, and we work with lifestyle brands essentially. So brands that do consumer goods. And this is sort of the background to Centra. We believe we're living in the beginning of a new era for brands, where what we have here is like what what it used to mean to be a brand, which is that you are, of course, designing products, getting them produced, and about what it used to mean to be a brand is very much focused on traditional wholesales, like selling B2B, maybe at the trade shows, fairs and so on, often through distributors, often to retailers, maybe with agents, and then finally reaching the consumer. And we believe that the world for what it means to be a consumer brand is going to be completely changed. So, and that revolution is of course happening. So I mean, we still believe, we're strong believers in brands. We believe that brands are true creators of value in the consumer goods ecosystem. So we believe there will still be a lot of brands in the future, but of course, what it means to be a brand is changing, and it's changing quite rapidly. And it's changing because you get a completely new distribution model in the digital world. First of all, we get, of course, global direct to consumer as an important channel. And probably for most brands, the most important channel, selling globally to customers wherever they are. Then we don't think wholesale is dying. Some people say no, but wholesale is going to die, or it's not going to exist. That we don't. I mean, maybe that will happen, but it will happen in 30, 40, 50 years. That's going to be a slow change. What is happening is that wholesale is getting digitized, and that's going. And wholesale before the pandemic was sort of, in most businesses, very traditional. You sort of had this B2B processes, with the sales reps going around and meeting their clients one by one, and sort of very, very old-fashioned style. And maybe when people were speaking about wholesale digitization, they were speaking like about getting the sales reps an iPad instead of an order sheet. And that's transforming now, and it's transforming and it's been accelerated by the pandemic, when the sales reps couldn't go around and meet their clients. And it's transforming in different ways. But one thing for sure is it's going digital. And then of course we have a completely new business model, drop shipping, meaning as a brand you can list products on marketplaces or those type of sites such as Amazon or all of the Amazon style marketplaces everywhere in the world, and you receive orders. So the marketplace has the customer, but as a brand, you receive the order and you do fulfillment. So drop shipping, a completely new business model. And of course, you might think, if as a brand, should we do that? Is that strategically correct? Is it not? Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? Is it worth the effort? You can have a lot of ideas about what to do when it comes to drop shipping on marketplaces, and I'll come back to that. But one thing for sure is that it's a new channel that you didn't have just a few years ago. By the way, again, I can't see you. Can you make a sound if you hear me still, and if everything is working? No, I get worried. Everything I need to see. Is it working? Yeah. Okay. Super. It's working. Excellent. It's like when I screen share, I only see the presentation, so I have no idea if I'm still connected and if everything is good. And by the way, just interrupt with the questions or comments if you want to. Cool. In the meantime, software has evolved. I mean, e-commerce is such an immature business. It's e-commerce as we know it has only been around for a few years, and it has evolved a lot. And as Mikael is saying, we're moving towards this headless type of software. So I mean, the way we think of it is like the first generation e-commerce software is like this really tightly coupled package, where you sort of had this in tech lingo, monolithic application where you have everything all in one. So you have your website with themes and templates. You have a CMS where you manage the content. You have all the business logic for the e-commerce operations, including the full product catalog. You have the order management, and you have the cart and checkout. All of that is like in one software. And of course, what people did with these softwares is that it's sort of a one size fits all, but you start to customize it, right, to get things done. And what happens with these first generation of e-commerce softwares, people get locked in, right? So you start customizing the software to make it do what you want it to do, and then a new version comes out, and it turns out, that's a several 100-hour IT project to apply it to install the new version, because so much changed. So it's because you have customized it, and it's not just an easy upgrade. It's like this version, legacy software that you manage yourself. Then the first generations of software as a service e-commerce platforms came, okay? And saying essentially, hey, instead of having this version set up to where it's like installing different versions and modifying the source code, why don't we do it as a software as a service offering? What is software as a service? I mean, that's what we mean by cloud-based software. You pay a monthly fee or a yearly fee or something, and you get access. And the vendor is responsible for making sure you're always on the latest version. So that came, and we saw that take off, and we saw that for brands that made a lot of sense, because all of a sudden you didn't need to worry about like IT operations and spend a lot of money on IT operations. You could instead spend the money on growth, which is, as a brand, a better place to spend the money. A drawback there was that these softwares were still monolithic. It's like a package, everything included in like a kit, and with the legacy software, you at least were flexible. You could change things around, but with this new software, you were less flexible, and that sort of led to this headless revolution. And I think the first term I heard myself, I heard the term like headless e-commerce was 2016. And I think I think it's really taken off, and I think from, as Mikael mentioned, it's like an architecture for building a website where you become so much more flexible and scalable, and in the long run more cost efficient. And by the way, there are lots of words for the same thing here. I mean, we used to say headless, and I think a lot of software started to say headless, and a lot of marketing people started to say headless, and no one really knew what it meant. Then I think Gartner started to say composable instead, to make it easier to understand. And some people say best of breed, some people say stack-based. So there are lots of words for a similar thing. I mean, the whole idea is that it's not the package where everything is included in one go, but it's actually, you have different software that do different things, and you connect them in a very flexible way, and you connect them in a lightweight way, so you can replace components one by one. So let's say you start off, you need to build you want to build an e-commerce store, and you select some core components for that, and you select Centra, which is a business logic engine, an e-commerce platform. You maybe select Storyblock, the CMS, because you want a great visual way to edit your website, and maybe you select MailChimp as an email tool because you want the simplest possible email tool. You don't really have a CRM strategy that you want to execute upon at this stage. And then later on, you decide, hey, I don't want MailChimp anymore. It's actually we now want a customer data platform. We're going to evolve our game when it comes to interacting with our customers. And what you do then is you plug out MailChimp and you plug in something new. And this is not like plugins in like some of these legacy software. Maybe some of you have worked with them. It's like you install a bunch of plugins, and they like they are sort of cookie cutter and do something maybe well, maybe not so well, and for sure they cause a lot of problems because they interact with each other in ways that no one had thought about. This is not like that. What this is like is open architecture where you work with Cloud9 or other skilled IT experts that essentially connect these different software that you build your solution out of using these APIs. And those APIs become like, we call it like technical contracts between the different software that make sure it works and everything is replaceable. And what you get in the long run is you just get much more flexibility, and in the long run, much lower total cost of running this type of solution, even though it's much more flexible in terms of what you can do. So that's like a little background. So like this is like the idea of Centra. Centra's idea is to be like an operating system for brands. So what we do is like we work with brands only. We think brands should be global and local. It's like it's borderless to start with, and you can with Centra sell wherever you want all over the world. And this doesn't mean you have one storefront per country or something like that. It's like it's really a system that makes it possible for a small team to efficiently manage a large website. We focus on pixel perfect design. That's why we like working with Storyblock, for example, because when you build a site on Centra, the way we think of it is you do a custom design. It's not like you start with a theme or a template, but we think brands deserve to have like a brand template online. So you make a pixel perfect design, and then you implement it with a real CMS. And I mean, that really empowers the content people to tell the brand story in a completely different way than with these poor CMSs that are usually built into an e-commerce business logic engine for something else. So again, Centra is headless, API first. What does that mean? I mean, technically it means all data in Centra is available in APIs. What's an API? An API, that's how two applications can speak to each other. Okay. And our idea is not to solve everything. So we usually say Centra is like the most boring part of e-commerce. Centra is like, it's nothing about the beautiful website, the design, it's nothing about any of the things that we really do the transactional part. Centra is like managing so that you can price products correctly for each customer, managing so that there's a customer cart and you can put products in the cart, calculating all the discounts everyone should get and calculate personalized discounts, and calculating all the taxes that should be applied globally, and then making sure payments are processed and the order come in an order flow. That's like really what Centra does. So you combine it with other software to create like the next generation experiences. Centra is direct to consumer and wholesale. So both all sorts of wholesale business models. I'll come back to that, but we don't think wholesale is entirely dead. We think it's a pretty interesting business model, and it's software as a service. So, which means again, it's versionless. It's up to date. It's just new features are released automatically all the time. You don't need to do an upgrade project or something like that to have the latest version. So that's it. We work with a bunch of brands. Here are some examples. So like essentially mid-size lifestyle brands with the global ambitions, you can say. Mikael asked me to speak a little bit about what the opportunities are for brands, and I think I'll mention a few things, but just starting. But I'll start with the channel strategy, which I think is really something to continuously review for all brands. I mean, number one, I mean, the direct to consumer business model is of course the business model with the highest margins and the highest strategic value. So I think all brands should invest in e-commerce, and we work with a lot of brands that have done a very successful transition, not brands that were started during the direct consumer revolution, but brands that were started 10 years ago or 20 years ago or more, that have done incredibly successful shifts into a direct consumer business model. It's not that easy. It needs to change. You need to replace some components in the brand DNA, but I think everyone understands that the direct-to-consumer model, it has the highest margins and it has the highest strategic value. It's strategically more valuable potentially than working with wholesale accounts, and it's strategically more valuable than working with marketplaces for sure, because you own the own customers. So I think that's like the number one opportunity. I think the other thing is like evaluating this marketplace channel. You remember I had this screen with like direct to consumer, wholesale, marketplaces. Now I think when marketplaces really took off, I think there was sort of this, and this is like the peak of the marketplace hype was probably like 3 years ago or something like that. And everyone said, hey, I need to be in all the marketplaces with all my products. I'm going to be there. And I think, of course, I mean, that follows it's not strange that is what has happened, because I mean the customer journey has changed. I mean, in the past, a customer journey used to start at a multi-brand retailer. Customer walks in through the door, decides what to buy, and of course what drives drives success for a brand, and is to make sure the products are correctly positioned at the best multi-brand retailers. I mean, that changed, of course, a few years ago, and then I mean the shopping journey is switched over to starting online, and then of course what happened after that is this in many markets, very dominant marketplaces were established, and the shopping journey does no longer start in the search engine; it starts in the at the marketplace, right? So I mean, everyone sort of were hunting for the marketplaces, right, and saying we need to be on all of them. What we see a lot of our clients doing are really reevaluating which marketplaces they want to be on and how, and saying, hey, do we really need to sell all our products on all of these marketplaces, or is it so that we should limit that, and we should actually have a segmented strategy and be a little bit more willing to invest in owning the customers ourselves, which of course might hurt when you have inventory to sell, right? So we see a lot of brands starting to segment, saying either, okay, we're going to sell some items on some marketplaces, it's going to be selectively, we're going to pull it back and own the customer in our own channel. Maybe try to focus on customers that have a very favorable return pattern in our own channel, and that the marketplaces handle customers with a less good return pattern, something like that. Okay, and I mean, what it is about is, of course, the marketplaces offer a great way to access a lot of customers at once, right? But if you think about what you can deliver as a brand, you can deliver, number one, something which is very authentic. And what you probably couldn't do before is deliver a good experience globally, because you're limited by fulfillment, essentially. But if you can bring that into your own direct consumer and deliver something which is authentic globally, and you can do this frictionless fulfillment everywhere, I mean, then maybe not all of these marketplaces are so necessary. You can own the customer in your own channel, which of course has a much higher customer lifetime value. I'm going to mention like the third thing then, I mean, what's happening in wholesale. And I mean, essentially what's happening in wholesale is we see a lot of clients that take a direct to retail approach to wholesale. So instead of having this traditional wholesale B2B value chain, you say, okay, we still want to sell B2B, but why don't we just sell e-commerce to the retailers? And you know what, it works pretty fine. And the smaller retailers just appreciate getting the opportunity to place orders online. If you think about the small, like mom and pop stores of the world and so on, the larger retailers, they have purchasing system, auto replenishment systems, potentially leveraging AI that just places orders automatically. So it works perfectly just to direct to the retail approach with them as well. Something that is just completely transforming the business model, and of course it has the opportunity to make wholesale more financially attractive as well. Might say, is it a good idea for a brand to sell wholesale? We usually say, yeah, there are some good reasons we see. I mean, besides the opportunity to actually have a profitable wholesale channel making money, for sure, you have the marketing value of being positioned at the right multi-brand retailers. If that's done correctly, you get increasing volumes, which can bring production costs down and overall give economies of scale. And so there are multiple reasons you might consider that. Hard, of course. I mean, for the digitally native consumer brands, usually we see the direct to retail approach is very easy because it's just the e-com team that starts doing wholesale. For the established brands, it's a transition. You need a new skill set. There's a new type of competence that is really important when you do when you digitize your wholesale. I'm not talking now about digitizing the order sheet, but digitizing the entire sales process. Large opportunities. I mean, the other thing, if we look beyond the channels, is like, of course, to sell globally. There are lots. I mean, because of like technical difficulties with selling globally, we see a lot of brands that don't do it. But there's no reason for that. I mean, with Centra, we've just solved that. So you can, as whole team can run a completely global localized e-commerce experience. And I think there's the Instagram is already global. There's no reason to think country-based. That's like a legacy type of thinking, actually. Number 5, micro warehousing. So new types of warehouse solutions really has opened up opportunities. Of course, warehousing is very difficult. As a brand, I mean, what is the strength of the great multi-brand retailer is typically fulfillment, right? Very, very good access to large-scale logistics globally, right? Now, what happened during the pandemic is like we now have a lot of stores everywhere that actually stock products and could fulfill them. So what we see a lot of our clients are doing right now is turning brick and mortar stores into delivery hubs, which is sort of repurposing them and giving them another cash flow. And typically, you anyhow have people in the stores, during the middle of the day, you have people there, but not so many clients. So they have time to pick and pack web orders or do click and collect and those type of services. We see a lot of that. A lot of things are happening there. And I mean, Centra has this really advanced inventory model where you can essentially have any number of warehouses and you can route orders however you want, and even work with distributors and those type of things in certain orders. So that's it, I think. I have nothing more to say. Did I do it correctly? No.
All right.
Still hear it? Yeah, super.
Yes.
Martin, thanks a lot. That was really interesting.
Yes, it was really.
Some good insights. And do we have some questions, Michaela, from the audience?
Let me see. Not yet, but do you have any questions? Just tell them in the chat. But you had a question, right?
Yeah. Martin, I thought it was really nice when you thought that you're doing the boring part, the really work behind the scenes. But but it's also so important. I mean, it's so crucial. You can have a really lovely front, but if the back end is not good, you're gonna be stuck. You're not gonna have a successful e-commerce. But looking at your business, what you're doing, so your focus is to develop this headless operating system for brands. What would you say, if you look forward 1-2 years, what do you see as a platform provider? What do you see as the biggest challenges in your roadmap, and challenges and opportunities? If you would pick, 1 or 2 things, what do you?
I think the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity of the headless technology is really the flexibility. It's both the challenge and the opportunity. And I think there are so many great systems being developed, right? And I think, which of course encourages very rapid business technology development and business development. When what I mean is like there's such an innovation in various tools for managing customer data, doing insights in real time, AI-driven things, and so on. And if you look at this, previously it's like you select your e-commerce platform, period, and then you sign, a 5-year agreement with some corporate vendor, long agreement, lawyers are involved, and then that's the agreement, and you go with them. With this headless world, it's like you can combine any software, and most of these software as a service. It's like you of course sign for them, but if you don't like them, you cancel. You're not locked in for many years, and that flexibility creates, so many opportunities. But I think also, I think, and that's the opportunity. But I think the challenge that we Cloud9, we Storyblock, everyone in the space need to solve this. Like what is the best practice setup here? How can we recommend something where, yes, we can try everything and we can plug in and plug out, and that's cool. But also something which is what's the best practice? Currently we're in this innovation phase, I think, in trying everything, and I think so solving that and coming with like a best practice setup that really works. That's one of the important things, I think, for us jointly.
I totally agree. And that's where I also think an agency like Cloud9 can come into picture, because we do this daily, look at different platforms, see what plays together. So, but I totally agree with this challenge going forward. Thank you so much. I think
Thanks
we
for
should.
having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Stick around if you can, and we will continue with our next speaker.
Thomas.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah,
How
and
is
hello,
everybody?
So Thomas, I just want to introduce you quickly. So you are the vice president of marketing. Our camera is having problem with our focus, I guess. But you are the vice president of marketing at Storyblock. And I think Storyblock is one of the most exciting things that has happened in the CMS space lately. I've been in the business for like 25 years. I worked with many different CMS platforms during the years. But I think you have kind of solved the holy grail of CMS, providing this very systematic approach with a true headless CMS, but also solving the challenge for editors to having an easy way to work, so you can see what you're doing. And
Yeah.
I think you have solved that with Storyblock, and so that's why I'm super happy to have you here. And I'm gonna let you on the floor so you can do your presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for the introduction. That's so kind to hear. I'm just going to share my screen, and maybe you can confirm with audio feedback that it works, because again, similar with Martin, I'm not seeing you.
Yeah.
We are seeing your screen and we're seeing you. So we are dropping
Awesome.
out.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for the introduction. And I'm really happy to be here to talk about two things we are quite passionate about at Storyblock, namely speaking, content and e-commerce. As Martin said, as Mikael said, we are a headless CMS. And as Martin said before, I think a lot of things in the headless world resonate with us as well, because we also agree that we're still in the early phase where the whole industry is really just getting started. But to maybe start with a quick introduction on where are we coming from, what do we do at Storyblock? Because up until this point today, Storyblock is used by close to 100 projects out there today, be it e-commerce stores, online shops, websites, mobile apps, really anything. But the story of Storyblock dates back to 2015, 2016, when Dominic and Alex, our two co-founders, were working at one of the largest agencies in Austria. So both of them came originally from Austria. They were working for this agency where basically back then their existing enterprise CMS product told them that they're gonna shut down the business. And this was in 2015, right at a point in time when the agency migrated big e-commerce sites like Adidas and Silhouette to this CMS vendor. So Dominic and Alex were starting to look for a new solution, really, at the end of the day, for their clients and how to do proper content management back then. And when they looked at the market, when they looked at the landscape of CMS systems out there, they would see two trends. And I think to some degree, these trends and key factors are still holding true today. One is, on the one hand side, you would see those monolithic traditional content management systems. We've all been using them. We all know them, be it in the open source space like WordPress, Drupal, be it in the enterprise space like Sitecore, Adobe Experience Manager, and others. And these traditional CMS systems were typically quite okay, quite good for marketers and editors, because what marketers and editors liked about them was the visual interface, was the drag and drop tooling to basically create content for websites. But on the other hand, developers, techies didn't really like those traditional systems, because usually these monolithic traditional systems come with a lot of legacy. If you would think back 20 years, I mean, WordPress was built at a time when we would have websites, right? But we didn't have mobile apps, we didn't have smartwatches, we didn't have IoT devices. So one could argue that WordPress and those similar traditional systems were developed at a time with a technology that is not really a great fit, we would argue, for the 21st century, where you would serve your clients and your end users on various channels. So that was situation one. Situation two was, in 2015, 2016, you would see the first headless CMS vendors popping up. And headless CMS, and we can talk a bit more about what that really is and what that stands for, but basically it offers, it would give developers, it would give businesses the freedom to basically build on any technology, any modern technology for any platform you would serve your customers. So these first headless systems were really liked by developers. They were loved by developers. But on the other hand, these headless systems wouldn't give marketers and editors the visual tooling, the visual interface that they would expect coming from these traditional systems. And I'm a marketer myself, and I'm sure we have some others joining this webinar today as well. Like, we're not techies, right? We can't work within code. We can't work within complicated systems. We don't want to do that at the end of the day, right? So this was really the starting point back then of Storyblock. And basically, it made Dominic and Alex build their own prototype, which would become later on Storyblock. And they built this prototype really with the main focus on how can we build a CMS, because you would argue, why build another CMS product, right? They were building the CMS with the main focus on how can we offer the latest API-first headless technology for the developers, but still at the end of the day offer marketers, editors, the visual interface that they would like to love. And that was the foundation of Storyblock and still holds true today, and is definitely something we're super focused on building the best headless CMS technology that is not only loved by developers, but also marketers and editors alike. As mentioned, today we are used by more than 60,000 users, be it developers, editors in more than 130 countries. And I'm going to show you some examples, use cases later on in this presentation. But let's talk real quick about the challenges and also opportunities that we as a CMS vendor see in the e-commerce space. I'd like to start with the content topic, because on the one hand side, and this is a survey from SEMrush being done in 2020 and 2021, which basically asked companies, do you have a content strategy? Do you have a content marketing strategy? And the great thing is, we can see the numbers going down of companies who don't have a content strategy, who don't have a content marketing strategy. So it was only 16% in 2020. But there's also a downside to this chart and report. At the same time, in 2019, 29% of companies reported that they don't have success in their content strategy. And if we continue and look at 2020, that number even goes up, and 38% rated their content strategy as average or even below average when they looked at certain metrics and KPIs. So you might wonder, why is this the case, right? Like, why do people struggle? Why do businesses struggle with content at the end of the day? I'd like to refer to this another survey done by CMS Wire in 2021. And basically, they ask executives the question on what is your top digital customer experience challenge that you have right now. And the most rated, the highest rated thing that came up was limited budget and resources. Okay, well, we all have, at the end of the day, limited budget and resources. So let's leave that aside for a second. The second thing that was mentioned was siloed systems and fragmented customer data, like being one of the top challenges that businesses would see. Third one, limited cross-department alignment and collaboration. So how does a marketing team collaborate with your IT team, your dev team, your product team, and so on and so forth. Number 4, outdated, limited technology, operations, and processes, as well as number 5, lack of in-house expertise and skills. To summarize those challenges, I would argue that number 1 and number 5 are factors that I would leave aside in today's presentations. But if we look at number 2 to 4, I would argue that these challenges directly relate to the way you manage your content, the way you operate your CMS as well as e-commerce systems and technology. So let's take a quick closer look at them. In a nutshell, and I think Martin mentioned a few of them already in terms of where businesses still are, the e-commerce businesses still come from. One is definitely this monolithic traditional world, right? And with that monolithic setup, on the one hand side, it used to be great, right? Because as Martin said, it's an all-in-one solution. You would have everything in one system, great. But on the other hand, all-in-one solutions are usually also not great at all the things they offer you to do. So usually they also feel quite limiting for either marketers, for either developers, or for certain jobs to be done. So we see that as still as a big challenge in today's e-commerce world, that brands really want to build a future-proof business with a marketing technology, with ideally an API-first technology that allows them to do that. The second thing, with those monolithic systems, you would usually get restrictive backends. So what do I mean by that? Usually those backends, for example, the CMS part, doesn't allow your content teams and marketing teams, IT teams to work together in the best way. Usually workflows felt quite limited, and there were usually quite some pain points. And to make it simple, I've been using those traditional systems myself, right? In the various businesses in the past. And I think a lot of times I saw and we see marketers being focused on technical difficulties rather than the real task at hand. So that is a big challenge, I would argue, still today for a lot of marketing teams out there. What do we mean with usability constraints? That goes a bit along the lines of the monolithic structure, because traditional e-commerce sites are usually managed by some sort of IT personnel, be it a developer, be it an administrator, who primarily is focused on the backend part, right? But usually, when I look at collaboration on how IT and marketing collaborates, that is usually collaborating bottlenecks for marketing teams, content teams who want to be more agile, who have new campaigns coming up, who, to the next point, need to go to the market, expand to new markets faster, be it with new landing pages, new campaigns, whatsoever. And again, there is usually this constraint and this bottleneck around IT and marketing and how IT and marketing collaborates. With slow to market, at the end of the day, we really see monolithic sites struggle because the way a monolithic system operates. And usually it would mean that international, if you go broad, if you go international, usually those sites are hosted individually for each market in each country, right? And not under one umbrella. And we would argue as a CMS system that makes your go-to-market initiatives quite slow, because suddenly you have to copy-paste content between different systems. And so copy-pasting something manually usually means that at some point, some content will be outdated in some language. And that is something that we marketers definitely not want to have. Maybe I'll just mention the last one real quick, slow page speed. We see traditional e-commerce websites that can be really painstakingly slow. So, and page speed being a key factor, not only for Google, but also the whole user experience for our customers at the end of the day, it is really something we believe e-commerce businesses should be focused on. And this is obviously not only a technology decision or not only a technology topic, but we believe a headless setup, an API-first setup can really help you a lot when it comes to page performance, for example, on your website. How do we solve those topics? How do we think about solutions for e-commerce when it comes to the mentioned challenges? Let's talk about the storytelling aspect. In these times, I think we look at e-commerce brands, and we look at great e-commerce brands that really are able to tell a cohesive, great story throughout all channels. So we believe that storytelling is and should be a key aspect in what you do as an e-commerce brand in your marketing. And we believe that your technology shouldn't be limiting that. And Storyblock, for example, and we have story in our name, right? So where our name, maybe just as a fun side note, comes from, we believe that you should tell your stories with blocks. What are blocks? Blocks are basically components, and components are basically a way for you to launch campaigns faster, create content faster. So we believe that a modern e-commerce setup, a modern e-commerce website should tell the story of your brand, right? And should enable marketers to be able to tell that story and not limit you in any way. And storytelling is so much more than just creating content, right? It's or creating blog articles, landing pages, because it interferes really between your product side as well as your marketing side. Go to market. How can you go to market faster with a headless setup, with an API first setup? With a headless setup, be it with Centra, Storyblock, or in general, we believe that you can be simply faster going international because it's much easier to scale. It's much easier to create content, create new projects for different markets, languages, and to really be able to go there faster. The third part, that is really the core, one of the core USPs we believe that sets Storyblock as a headless system apart, and that's the visual editing experience. We believe that API, and when we talk about APIs, when we talk about headless, we hear and see a lot of marketers be like, oh, well, yeah, that's such a technical topic. I don't want to deal with that, right? And this is a situation I think we all want to avoid, right? Because at the end of the day, it would mean that if you don't like to use a system, you won't use it at the end of the day, right? And if I'm, as a marketer, I'm not liking my CMS experience, I won't be too much focused about it. I think that's the reality. So we really want to give you, the business sides, the marketers, the editors, all the visual toolings to really be able to create content, to see how your content will look like in real time. Because a big pain point when it comes to headless is sometimes you don't know how the content will look like on your website, or it will look like in your mobile app or in any other channel. And at Storyblock, we give you this tooling, we give you the live preview to really be able to experience that. The fourth part, dynamic content. We believe to tell a great story, you need to be working with dynamic content. So you need to work with personalized content. You need to tell your story for different personas in a more personal way across all channels, right? Be it simple things like localization for sure, but also telling stories differently for different personas, maybe telling stories differently for different types of customers you have. And with Storyblock as a headless CMS, for example, together with Centra, you can do all those personalization topics. You can tackle A/B testing to really trial different campaigns that you might want to run for different audiences to really be able to learn also faster from your personas, from your website visitors, from your users. And yeah, use that again as in your marketing and content operations. Flexible technology, I think we've heard that before. At the end of the day, the so-called best of breed headless approach gives you more flexible technology stack. There come many parts to that, and this can also be a challenge, as Martin said before. But we believe that in the future, more and more e-commerce businesses will make the switch to flexible headless solutions because of the factors, all the factors that come with that. Last but not least, page speed. A headless setup really allows you to improve your user experience, as mentioned before, but also we believe it improves your page performance. And we've seen websites, just as one example, where businesses made the switch to a headless setup and they decreased loading times just because of the nature on how a headless system like Storyblock works by 81%. And this had, for example, a tremendous impact on not only conversion rates, but also like quality factors when you run Google Ads, for example. So those are, I think, the things that we are quite obsessed with at Storyblock when it comes to providing great solutions for e-commerce. To summarize that, at the end of the day, Storyblock is a headless CMS, right? We've mentioned that before. And if you're not too familiar, what headless really means and how the separation between the traditional CMS is, at the end of the day, we give you, your team, be it editors, developers, marketers, the CMS interface, the CMS backend that really allow you to create content faster, more streamlined. And through an API approach, you can push your content to any channel, be it websites, be it mobile apps, IoT, voice assistants. We even have some examples where customers of ours host their content on Storyblock to push it to WeChat in China because they would also serve the Chinese market. And through the joy of a headless system, you can manage your content once and you don't need to care too much on if that's going out to WeChat as well as to your website, for example. Again, I've said it before, but just to summarize, the visual editing experience is really key to us. On the right-hand side, you can see a screenshot on how you can work inside your CMS with Storyblock, where we give content creators really basically the same preview as if they would browse their own website. And in real time, you can see changes being made and applied to your website even before they go live. With V2, and if you're interested in the visual editor experience and how your business can utilize the power of Storyblock, I would recommend you to also check out Storyblock V2. That is our newest iteration of our own CMS coming. Actually, we're going to announce this next week, starting next week, Monday, for all of our users to be able to preview an even faster, even easier visual interface. So if you're interested in that part, hit me up later on or check out our Storyblock V2 product update. At the end of the day, when it comes to e-commerce, we believe that the future of e-commerce from a marketing technology stack is headless. Because of all the benefits that Martin mentions, I'm not going to repeat that, but also because of the joy of being able to integrate Centra, for example, as an e-commerce operating system with your CMS system to be able to tell more enriched stories for your end users. To give you some examples, and I'm just kind of looking at time, but to give you some examples on how certain customers of ours, how certain e-commerce brands use the power of Storyblock, use the power of headless really to build great solutions, be it websites, mobile apps, or online experiences, whatever that might be. I'd like to mention a few examples. One is Marco Polo. Marco Polo is a global fashion brand from Germany. They're headquartered in Germany, but they undertook in the last 12 months the journey from migrating from a big all-in-one e-commerce solution to a headless system with the main goal of not only building a future-proof stack that they can run with for the next few years, but also be able to launch their online shop in different markets faster. And the funny thing is, I think they went live, I believe, 2 months ago or so with the first 20 brands. And just last week, I had a conversation with Maria, one of the technical project managers, and she told me, well, you know, Thomas, we just added 20 additional countries with a click, and we've added I don't know how many languages within a click, and it was just a joyful, seamless experience with the new headless setup. And at the end of the day, those are the examples we really love to see because we believe that a headless setup will enable you to simply, as said before, go to market faster and also give your editors and developers a tool they really enjoy using. If you'd like to learn more about Marco Polo, I've linked the case study here. We also have some cool videos there. Go check them out or hit me up later on. Another example, for example, in Italy is Panini. I'm not sure if you're into stickers and into soccer. I've been growing up with Panini stickers as a kid and as a teenager. And what they basically did is they, again, also moved from a monolithic world to a headless setup with the main goal, again, of launching in different markets with different websites, with different languages, simply faster. And the cool thing that Nicola, the technical development manager, told us after they migrated to Storyblock is that while all those projects are usually quite tech heavy, right? It's just such by nature, it's a technical topic, relaunching your marketing technology. He told me that the biggest thing for him is that the content editors and marketers nowadays really enjoy to actually working with a cool and great CMS. And as a marketer myself, I think that's really cool to hear at the end of the day. I think Martin mentioned Stronger, originally from Sweden, now going global as well. Stronger really utilized the power of Storyblock and Centra by going headless to be able, at the end of the day, to launch new markets faster. And what they've seen really, I believe, in the first 6 months after going global and launching with their new headless setup, be it Storyblock and Centra, is not only an increase in website visitors, but also at the end of the day, really cool numbers in terms of increased orders and conversion rates there. And Honey, e-commerce team lead at Stronger, really again mentioned how she thinks that Storyblock together with Centra really gives her as a business user the tool at hand to create great experiences for their clients and customers. Looking at time, I think these are really just some examples that I can give you today. Storyblock is used, just as a full disclosure, not only in e-commerce businesses, but throughout different industries and verticals. But we definitely see a big focus within e-commerce, and we believe that a headless world will be the future in general. But we also still have a long way to get there, as Martin, as he also said, that we're just getting started, right? And I believe that at some point in the future, it won't be so much about do we go headless or do we not go headless and stick with an all-in-one solution. It will rather be, and the question or discussion should rather be, how do we create the best experience for our end users? How do we create the best experience for our team to be able to achieve the goals that we have? So with that said, thanks a lot for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know now or later on LinkedIn. And yeah, hope to see you soon.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you a lot, Thomas. Again, on camera. There, focus. Thank you a lot. We are actually running very tight on time, so I think I will skip the question. Or do we have some questions from the audience?
No, not yet. But if you come up with any question, you can just put it in chat right now. Otherwise,
yeah, and Michaela will post a link to a booking, calendar booking. So if you want to talk with me, we work with Storyblock, we work with Centra, and if you're interested to hear more about these platforms, how we can build something really exciting for you, just hit me up and book a meeting with me. So thanks a lot, Thomas, and just stick around. We're gonna finalize with giveaway.
Yes.
Yeah.
A great giveaway. So the first thing that we have is a little licorice soap with some licorice candy in it as well.
Yeah. So this is a key client of us, a brand called Dermosil. It's a Finnish skincare brand, and they are kind enough to sponsor these gifts. So we have 2 winners.
Yes.
Of this, and that is
Hans E and Sabine S.
Okay.
Yes, and we will contact you after this webinar, and
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. And the second thing is the cardamom soap kit. It's a kitchen soap and hand soap.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yeah. And 2 lucky winners of this package is
Amanda E and Richard D.
Congratulations. All right. We are about to finish today. I hope you have enjoyed the talks. What we have.
Yes, and join us next week as Lithium and Aptus is going to share their thoughts and talk about their platform. And so sign up on our webpage. And also, as we mentioned, this is recorded, so you could also look at Thomas and Martin's talk afterwards. And you can find that on our webpage as well. And we will also send out email to all of you where you can find it. And also Camilla's, the first webinar.
Yeah. And so the next Wednesday, it's time for Lithium and Aptus, and those. So just a quick intro to those. So Lithium is a more traditional e-commerce platform, but also with headless capabilities. And Aptus is a very interesting recommendation search platform based on artificial intelligence. So I hope you join us for that session as well.
Yeah. Thank you again, Martin and Thomas. And thank you all of you who stayed and joined us today.
Yeah. Take care, everyone, and see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.